bang, bang.
Go, 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 go. Yeah. For the love of money, niggas come around. For the love of money, some stay around. For the love of money, what a nigga will do. For the love of the money. Yeah. I gotta shake it 12 at night to 5 in the morning. They don't give a fuck now. If it's for the money, niggas gon' bark and they bite like a motherfucking dog. Gotta party like a motherfucking dog. For that cat, I am gon' roof and I'm barking at that cat, and I am gon' take the roof off when I'm riding that ride. Rip, leaning to the left, but I'm steady on the only right. I'm swerving with a purpose. A nigga been sipping on that purple. A nigga been cheaping on that purple. Cause I'm getting money. Cause I'm getting money. And I'm laughing all the way to the motherfucking bank. And I'm telling her, tell me later if she thinking what I'm thinking. Damn, me getting money. I woke up.
The number hit me before the story did. 250,000. 250,000 children. No last names, no birth certificates, no records of where they came from or who they belong to. Loaded onto trains between 1854 and 1929 and shipped across America like freight, distributed to strangers in 47 states. And somehow this is a footnote in history books, not a chapter. I found it while pulling threads on the 1890 census destruction, searching for what else vanished during that same window of time. One record gap led to another, which led to a name I'd never encountered in any classroom. The orphan trains. The largest location of a 75-year program that moved water millions across a continent. What bothered me more was the math. The official story goes like this. In the 1850s, eastern cities were overwhelmed by immigration. Families poured in from Europe, crammed into tenement housing, and when parents succumbed to disease, poverty, or addiction, children ended up on the streets. New York City alone.
So, talking about, let's say it,
Are we talking about the Europeans coming here to colonize or the European coming here as an indentured? Due to poor activity taking place in what we now today call Europe, it's that the reason why they came here? Not to colonize, but to be revived? To be revived? Is the story being told backwards? Yes. Yes, the fuck it is. Yes. No ifs, ands, and buts about it, player. You've been lied to, player. Yeah, yeah. The story's been told to you backwards. Huh. Who's the real slave? Excuse me. Excuse my French. Who's the real indentured servant? Why would they change up all the census records to put you as black all of a sudden in 1942, starting in 1932? Now, like I said, I'm going to give you the story on how that transpired. After Woodrow Wilson segregated the Congress, kicked all the, so to speak, I'm gonna call them the unnamed people out of office who was running the office prior to the Federal Reserve. Hmm. So let's find out who in the Hawaii is all of these babies running around up in here and up and through here, coming from Europe. Let's find out who's actually being shipped to the Americas. You damn sure ain't no damn African slave. Mwah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That alone should bother you. But what bothered me more was the math. The official story goes like this. In the 1850s, eastern cities were overwhelmed by immigration. Families poured in from Europe, crammed into tenement housing, and when parents succumbed to disease, poverty, or addiction, their children ended up on the streets. New York City alone had an estimated 10,000 to 30,000 homeless children by 1850. A Yale-educated minister named Charles Loring Brace saw these children sleeping in alleyways, forming gangs for protection, getting arrested and thrown into adult prisons as young as 5 years old, and he decided to act. In 1853, he founded the Children's Aid Society. His solution was simple. Take these children out of the city, put them on trains, send them to wholesome farming families.
Hmm. So what we're gonna do with these little, these little ones with no parents from Europe? What we're gonna do is we're gonna put these jokers on the train. If this ain't some Epstein shit, talk to me. So first, the Epstein extravaganza started way back in the day. They say 1850s is when it started. Now, mind you, that the slave schedules also dropped during the 1850s, right? So you got the schedules, well, like, because it's SCH. So I'm jiving on the way they. So these say slave schedules would have been for them. Let me not even beat around the bush with it. This, so to speak, slave schedule would have been for the people who are being bussed around and giving that title, huh? Because you're being bussed around to become a worker. Now, what is going on here? So you got a bunch of poor people coming from Europe hitting New York 1854. Could this be your first Native American? And they talking about these new Native Americans ain't the Native Americans, because could this European be the first Native American being born on American soil? Could the brown skinned, so to speak, black person or Negro be the original man of America? As we can see, they've already burnt down the census buildings throughout the South. Why are you burning down buildings in the South? What did the South do to you? And then you bus people to the South by the thousands. Did these people in turn take the Aboriginal colored people of the South storyline and place it upon themselves because they came with no background? Is this what's going on? Did these people rewrite history and take your history and put it to their history with these mystery kids that they say came from Europe, hit the New York Ellis Island? Oh, wait. This is before Ellis Island. We're talking about 1850s. Something being set up as far as a plan goes. Hmm. You know what? I got my scuba diving gear on. Let's take a deeper dive. The Papah Trail. Let's go. 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 Bang, bang.
And could provide moral upbringing. The first train left New York on October 1st, 1854, carrying 46 children to Dowagiac, Michigan. By the end of the week, all 46 had been placed with families. The program expanded. Other organizations joined: the New York Foundling Hospital, the American Female Guardian Society. Over 20 separate agencies eventually participated, and for 75 years, the trains kept running. Now, here's where I'll be fair to the official narrative. Many children did land in loving homes. Two orphan train riders went on to become state governors: Andrew Burke of North Dakota and John Brady of Alaska. A 1910 survey claimed 87% of placements were successful. Charles Loring Brace genuinely believed he was saving lives, and in many cases, he probably was. I don't dispute that. What I dispute is the scale. What I dispute is the origin. What I dispute is the silence surrounding the parts of this story that don't fit. Let's start with the numbers. New York City's total population in 1850 was approximately 500,000 people. The claim is that 10,000 to 30,000 of them were homeless children. That's anywhere from 2 to 6% of the entire city consisting of parentless children. By the 1870s, despite the establishment of orphanages, charitable organizations, settlement houses, and the Children's Aid Society itself working around the clock, the number of homeless children grew to between 20,000 and 30,000. The program
So we got an indentured servitude program running for 75 years, bringing in these mysterious kids from Europe with no background whatsoever. And then, did the yellow fever kill all their parents? God, I mean, there's a lot of deaths in these small quarters in New York. I mean, where are you burying all the of these unalived people, their parents that you guys say got sick in New York, became unalived in New York, and now you have all these people with no parents. Well, you have all these underage, adolescent, uh, let's say kids with no parents now. So now you need to find a home for these guys. So let me start with 46 of you jokers. Let me put you on this train, and I'm gonna keep this train's gonna go from city to city that we got this track laid at. So shoot, hop off that train, do your song, do your dance, give your best smile. But I hope one of these people want to buy your little. What is going on here? And my guy said, yeah. This is gonna work. It's like me being a stork, dropping off babies at doorsteps. Whether you want it or not, take it. What is going on? Uh, y- You're burning down all the census for the actual Aboriginal people who were taking their own census, who had their own businesses rolling and rocking, who had their own banking system set up. This is nothing to do with no Freedmen's Bank or nothing. These people who were the Aboriginals were pumping by themselves. Okay, you're coming into something. And not only are you coming into something, you're bringing little somethings. You know what? We're gonna dive deeper onto where in the hockey sticks, he double hockey sticks. He's getting these these little kids from all of a sudden too to be put on a train to say shit, get your ass on that train. You better hope somebody choose you at one of these stops, because if you come back, it ain't gonna be good for you. Huh? What is going on here? He's seen as the progenitor to how the adoption agency started. This is what's going on here. This has everything to do with the census they dropped in 1942. Now they dropped these censuses in 1942. Again, I tell you, I'm talking about the 1790 census all the way up into the 1870 census. It was a bundle deal. Again, deeper dive into that coming soon. Hashtag coming soon.
Programs weren't reducing the problem. The supply of parentless children kept 2 to 6% of the entire city consisting of parentless children. By the 1870s, despite the establishment of orphanages, charitable organizations, settlement houses, and the Children's Aid Society itself working around the clock, the number of homeless children grew to between 20,000 and 30,000. The programs weren't reduced.
And I do want you to actually think about it for a second, ponder on it. Check it, check it, check it, check it. Homeless children, huh? Again, doing the numbers, they tell you right off the back here was 10 to 20,000 at first, and now we got the orphanage going. We've gotten rid of the kids you would think that were homeless, right? You got them placed with families. Said it was going pretty swell, right? Nah, 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 nah. Hell to the no. No, no, no. The homeless population grew even more within that age bracket again, huh? It went from 10 to 20,000 to 20 to 30,000. So not only how are all these women having babies and ain't living as a mom long enough to see your kid grow up. Now the kid homeless, need to be put in the orphanage. Yo, yo, yo. They ain't telling the full truth about a lot of shit. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm telling you, man, they did not gain power until the Federal Reserve was created in 1913 under Woodrow Wilson. Even though he was in office, I think 1912. No, their plan was really taking place even all the way up until 1924 with the Racial Integrity Act. These are some newbies right now in office. When I say in office, I mean running the United States. And half of these jokers ain't got no background, because you know why? They orphan babies. This ain't me saying it. It's the actual facts that state that these people don't got a real background. So these these people in the 1800s saying they got all this land, you ain't got no goddamn land, no damn 1800s. You fucking mystery, you mystery human. No, we don't know where the hell you came from. Now, how you saying, and even all the way back into the founding fathers? Fucking lie. Hey, they could have been orphan people. What you talking about? How you get in the 1600s, huh? Hey, George Washington. Hi, yo. You probably rode the train too. How you get to the how these people have made up these narratives and these stories through these philosophical societies. And again, this whole Epstein story is telling you the truth. They've been doing this. Like You know what? You'll talk to anybody. You can be like, hey, they've been doing this. Okay, well, put the goddamn puzzle together. If they've been doing this, you should know that none of this shit they've been saying is correct, right, or even close to the truth. Right now, we got a bunch of goddamn kids coming in during the 1850s when they so called want to create a slave schedule during the same time. Yo, foot, neck. Yeah. Now let's J.E., I know you can hear I know you can hear me, goddamn it. You know you in cahoots with these people that created this goddamn internet. Man, look, give me $100 million. I won't tell nobody, motherfucker. Little creepy ass.
The number of 1,000 and 30,000. The programs weren't reducing the problem. The supply of parentless children kept increasing. Where were the parents? Immigration records exist. Ship manifests exist. Ellis Island processed families together, not unaccompanied minors by the tens of thousands. If these children arrived in America with families, something happened to those families after arrival. Something so widespread and so thorough that it produced 250,000 children whose origins couldn't be traced over the course of 7 decades. And here's what no one explains. If you add in the British Home Children Programme, which ran from 1869 to 1948 and relocated over 100,000 children from the United Kingdom to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa under nearly identical conditions, the number climbs past 350,000. Same decades, same methods, same pattern of children labelled as orphans, even though 2/3 of the British children had at least one living parent. Same untraceable origins, same sealed records. Two parallel programs on two continents, producing the same result at the same time. That's not poverty. That's not coincidence. That's
Well. Look what the cat done drug in. Huh. Two stories doing the same exact thing in two different people. Huh. Oh, here we go with these two redundant stories overlapping each other. So now you got a toss up in the air. 6-7. Which one is real? The African slave trade or this British indentured servitude trade? Well. Which one do you think is real? Bringing over people without a background and creating a background by taking other people's land and their heritage and saying that's you. And by 1942, you can rewrite history even better by saying, all right, bang, whew, got it. We're going to redo the census. They ain't seen them anyway. And then you create a group of writers to go out and make sure you create a quote unquote slave narrative. Around the same time of you guys repenciling maybe what we would think would be the original census because you are using our real names and you are tracing us back to certain areas in the 1800s. So could those be our census that you have taken and rewrote black, negro, and colored on our shit and replaced it with these babies with no background who have now grown to adulthood in America, had babies, and things of that nature? Did you guys create this motherfucking story? I know you did. It was rhetorical. You fish eyed fool. Bang, bang.
350,000. Same decades, same methods, same pattern of children labeled orphans, even though children whose origins couldn't be traced over the course of 7 decades. And here's what no one explains. If you add in the British Home Children Programme, which ran from 1869 to 1948 and relocated over 100,000 children from the United Kingdom to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa under nearly identical conditions, the number climbs past 350,000. Same decades, same methods, same pattern of children labelled as orphans, even though two-thirds of the British children had at least one living parent. Same untraceable origins, same sealed records. Two parallel programs on two continents, producing the same result at the same time. That's not poverty. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern, and patterns demand explanation. But the explanations don't come because the records don't exist. The National Orphan Train Complex in Concordia, Kansas, the primary museum and research center dedicated to this history, maintains a database of just over 8,000 confirmed riders out of 250,000.
So, Kansas, bring your ass to the front. Come to Kansas. Come on, Kansas. So you got record of these people being bought and sold. Basically, is what you're saying, or you got 'em- you call them riders, riders of the goddamn train, boxcar kids. So, what, what are you trying to say, Kansas? You got records of 8,000 of these European kids being transported. What is that? Ain't that kidnapping? You transporting kids via state line, stuff like that, acting like you a stork or something, bringing like what is going on here? Wait. This is the European storyline of what they did to their own people. Wait. So this has nothing to do with Africans coming here or nothing like that in the 1800s. Before 1865, when they said it was a civil war, a bunch of malarkey as well. Yep. Hey, look, stepping on all of that. Yeah, none of that actually existed. Because if you're bringing kids over here, so by 1865 they fight in the war too. What happened to these kids that you just brought 10 years earlier? Are they teenagers now? You train them to be soldiers so they can fight in the 18s. What happened to these kids during 1865 wars, or from 1860 through 8? They just got here in the 1850s. You are now in a full blown war. They got here in 1850s. You are now in a full blown war. People are moving all around America from 1860 to 1865. There are two different presidents, two different constitutions going on. These people, what happened to these goddamn kids? Are we talking about the antebellum South? What happened to these so-called black people you erased? Weren't they rich during this time in the South? Didn't they outnumber everybody in the South? Hold up, wait a minute, stop. This nigga is on his brakes. Yeah, in traffic. Moving a mile a minute. Moving a mile a minute right now because you got to understand what's going on here. If you ain't pumping your brakes and seeing the narrative take place before our own eyes here, they have replaced their actual story and given it. They've replaced their story with. They've replaced ours. Wait. Nah, I ain't saying it right. Nah, them motherfuckers have taken our history and put it under their foundation, and they sleeping very nicely on our foundational story. If all of y'all are getting here in the 1800s by the way of riding trains, eventually you became a governor, huh? Train riders that come to conquer the world, huh? Right around the time of the first slave schedule coming about, because again, we're not going to even say how the word slave and Slavic are one and the same. Why the word slave actually comes from the word Slavic. So at the same time, the first ever slave schedules are supposedly created, which we know that they were not created to go along with the census, even though I know that they did not have a census for themselves that they were running.
prior to this whole reconstruction. So again, babies are being brought all around the world on these trains. You wonder why they were building these train tracks now to help to help import these little indentured servants all over the United States, huh? America, all over America during this time because that's what's going on. There is no war about to kick off from 1860 through 1865. That's all shenanigans going on. That is a narrative. That shit did not happen. Okay, all right. Some of us can actually say we got some war documents and things of that nature. But we also want to see, okay, if you got war documents saying your people were in the 1860 through 1865 a war, I want to see some originals. No, okay. Make me know that that actually happened, and this ain't part of their motherfucking play, and those people are part of the big stage play. Cause I also want to know what happened to all those indentured servant babies that were being bussed around on a train, boxcar kids, during the same time leading up to Ellis Island. Because during this war, they're still busting in kids, bringing them down south. It's about to get real crazy out here. How are you guys still working with the South, but you're in a war against the South? You're still having these kids on a train being transported through. And Kansas will tell you that story. We're gonna have to figure this shit out, huh? Because I'm telling you, they have played a horrible trick on us, bro. They have given some no name people with no background the Aboriginals history, and now the Aboriginals are now from Africa. And these motherfuckers been here since 1600s. No, it's your ass been riding a goddamn train. What is going on here? I'm about to railroad that motherfucker. Yeah, that train off the motherfucking tracks, bitch. Off.
That's roughly 3%. The New York Hospital, which sent out an estimated 100,000 children on its own, was described by researchers as trains and riders. Many organizations kept no standardized records at all. Children were pulled directly off streets with no documentation of their family origins. Names were changed upon placement, sometimes multiple times. The Children's Aid Society and the Foundling Hospital still keep their archives restricted. Descendants who contact them receive, and I'm quoting their own policy here, non-identifying information in the form of a letter. No copies of documents are provided. 250,000 children moved across a continent. 97% of them have incomplete, missing, sealed, or destroyed records. In a nation that was simultaneously building the most comprehensive census system in the world, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Speaking of the census, the 1890 census was the most detailed population survey the United States had ever conducted. For the first time, each family received its own dedicated form. It collected information on immigration status, naturalization, English language proficiency, home ownership, race, household composition, and the relationship of every individual to the head of household. It captured a nation of 63 million people during the exact peak of the orphan train era. The highest placement rates occurred between 1882 and 1892. Nearly half of all children sent to Minnesota alone arrived in that single decade. The 1890 census would have documented precisely where these children were living, who they were living with, and whether their stated origins matched any verifiable immigration record. That census was destroyed. A fire on January 10, 1921, in the basement of the Commerce Department building damaged or destroyed the population schedules. About 25%.
Well, well, well. Huh. So not only did it not only did the scissors burn down and erase these boxcar kids story, they also restricted. They can't even get their documents to see who the fuck they are. So because they don't know who they are. They don't really got records on these people. If you can't get your records, why are they forever held in contempt? You have locked up my goddamn documents, and I can never see them, but I am me. No, it's we created you. You are what we wanted you to be, an infiltrator. An infiltrator. So what's going on here? Yeah, I mean, there is no such thing as a conspiracy theory anymore. We should be questioning everything because now we got a whole African slave trade story right beside right beside an indentured servitude story. Now, these indentured servants were not only brought to the Americas, they were also taken to the Caribbeans. And as you heard this guy say, whoever the hell he is, kudos, keep it up. Yeah, they were also taken to Australia, which we all know. They were also taken to other places around the known world that we know. So, are these the Africans? Or did they just write a play on a play story? We got some kids. We don't know where the hell they came from. They say they came from Europe. We don't know where the hell these kids came from. We know what they started coming into ports into America underage, and then they were being sent around the Americas as indentured servants, not as adopted kids. No, you my indentured servant. You work for me. You five. I don't give a damn. Go to work. What is going on here? What the fuck is going on here? So we can hereby say that the African slave trade is a narrative. Now we got a new slave trade on the rise that we need to be talking more about is this so-called European slave trade that was going on from the UK to the Americas. Because they actually have proof of this. They actually have real tangible proof of this. And we have proof of this as well too, because a lot of them can't trace themselves back far. And you wonder why in those olden days none of them look like each other because they babies from who knows what, from who knows who. All we know is they're saying that their parents were poor by the thousands, and first they were poor in the United Kingdom, then they come here in America and be poor. Now your kid got to get sold. What the fuck is going on here? This is the true African slave trade, the European slave trade amongst this so called indentured servitude in a nutshell. And to create this story, they had to get control of the census to make this story come true, which is what they dropped in 1942 after they rewrote everything that the Aboriginal people, were taking their own census. So what they did was make sure they could take control of these census by taking control of the government. That started with Woodrow Wilson kicking everybody out of office, creating the Federal Reserve to create this new banknote which made you pay taxes, got you a birth certificate, got you all these nice things. America rules everything, but you will lose everything. Mind you are not the one with the money. The one with the money is the one who makes the money. You got all the power, but it ain't in it. Oh, wait. You got all the power, but it ain't in your hands. Got all the power, but it ain't in your hands. We find out who the real African slaves are, but they're in the form of a European. And Kansas know all about this, evidently. Hee hee. uh, you going back to Kansas? Just look over your shoulders, honey. I'm on my mic jack, but they ain't gonna jack me up no more, goddammit. Hey, look, EpiL. Hey, I done told you, player. $100 million. Nigga, I ain't telling nobody.
Percent sustained water and smoke damage. The Census Bureau estimated it would take 2 to 3 years to copy and salvage what remained. They never started. The damaged records sat in warehouse storage for 12 years, untouched, verifiable immigration record. That census was destroyed. A fire on January 10, 1921, in the basement of the Commerce Department building damaged or destroyed the population schedules. About 25% burned outright. Another 50% sustained water and smoke damage. The Census Bureau estimated it would take 2 to 3 years to copy and salvage what remained. They never started. The damaged records sat in warehouse storage for 12 years, untouched, deteriorating. Then in December 1932, the chief clerk of the Census Bureau quietly added the surviving 1890 schedules to a routine list of papers approved for destruction. Congress authorized it on February 23, 1933. The very next day, they laid the cornerstone for the new National Archives building. Of the 63 million people enumerated, only about 6,300 entries survive today. And this was the first census for which the government discontinued the practice of filing backup copies at local offices. No backups, no copies, no redundancy. For the single most genealogically valuable census ever taken, covering the exact years when 250,000 unidentified children were being redistributed across the country. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision. But let me tell you about the part that still keeps me up at night: the display. When trains arrived at their destination towns, the children were taken to courthouses, opera houses, church halls, or railroad platforms. Advance flyers had been posted in local newspapers: homes for children, wanted, and the children were put on stage. They were made to stand in lines, they gave their names, sang songs, recited little performances, and then the townspeople selected them. According to Sarah Jane Richter, a professor of history at Oklahoma Panhandle State University, people came along and prodded them and looked and felt and saw how many teeth they had. Orphan train rider Stanley Cornell described it in his own words. We'd stop in these little towns and get out of the trains and they'd interview us. It was kind of like a cattle auction. Some ordered boys, others girls, some preferred light babies, others dark, reported the Daily Independent of Grand Island, Nebraska, in May of 1912. A woman in Burlington, Iowa told a reporter in 1889 that she wanted a particular boy because he has his hair combed. Siblings were separated routinely. Brothers watched sisters get chosen by different families. Then the unchosen children got back on the train and rode to the next town, and the next, until someone picked them or the line ran out. Many never saw their families again. The phrase, put up for adoption, comes from this era. Literally, children put up on platforms for selection. And when they arrived at their new homes, the erasure was completed. Rider Alice Ayler said in 1996, "I was one of the luckier ones because I know my heritage." They took away the identity of the younger riders by not allowing contact with the past. Names changed, histories erased, origins forbidden. Children told to forget everything before the train, told their old life didn't exist anymore. I found one account from a rider who was sent back 3 times. 3 different families rejected him before a fourth kept him. Not because anything was wrong with him, because he was too small for farm work. That's what they wanted. Labor. The legal documents didn't even use the word adoption. They used the word indenture, the same word used for contracted servitude. Abolitionists at the time saw exactly what was happening and called the platform displays slave auctions. Catholic leaders in Boston accused the Children's Aid.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So, well. There you have it. There you have it. These motherfuckers are slaves. Oh yeah, they definitely rewrote history. They definitely rewrote history. Yeah. Who are these Cabbage Patch kids? These are your original African slaves. Ain't no such thing as an African slave. They made that narrative up. What there is a such thing is a Cabbage Patch kid, or an indentured servant, or a boxcar kid. And these people are, so to speak, from the Europe area. Not from Africa. Well, some of them are from North Africa, and some of them did come over from South Africa too. Well, lo and behold, those are also pale skins. So, is the real African slave trade the European slave trade? Because we do have some pale skins that call themselves Afrikaners, correct? What is really going on here? Huh? What's really going on here? Huh?
The legal documents didn't even use the word adoption. They used the word indenture, the same word used for contracted servitude. Abolitionists at the time saw exactly what was happening and called the platform displays slave auctions. Catholic leaders in Boston accused the Children's Aid Society, a Protestant organization, of systematically removing Catholic immigrant children to convert them to Protestantism. Reverend George Haskins, speaking for the Bishop of Boston, accused them of selling children body and soul to farmers. These weren't fringe accusations. These were public charges made in newspapers and congressional hearings. But the trains kept running. And here's what connects it to the broader pattern I keep finding. October 8, 1871, one night. Multiple catastrophic fires ignited simultaneously across the Great Lakes region. The Great Chicago Fire destroyed 2,100 acres, leveled 17,400 buildings, and left 70,000 people homeless. That same night consumed 1.2 million acres, the single most devastating wildfire in recorded American.
So you're wondering how the World's Fair showed all of these spectacular buildings and whatnot, and poof, gasoline, fire. And we ain't talking more fire. We ain't talking party fire. We ain't talking bonfire. We talking about burn your shit down, yeah, boy. Fire. So once they create these big ass city fires, guess what they do? Guess what they do? They come in and repopulate with these babies. And of course, you can have some of these babies if you can take care of them. If you need to rebuild your city, we got these little babies here. This one right here, look, he's 10 years old. He can get you. He can help you out there in that field. Now, were these people selling these children to Aboriginal people as well too? Don't think for one second they weren't. Don't think for one second they weren't. You know the Aboriginal people are some really wholesome, loving people. Just don't turn on us in our face. That's how I know this wasn't done in our face. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. We know you've been up to something, but it ain't never been up front with it. You know what I mean? You some backdoor ass cats right here. But again, we know that there's no African slave trade. We cannot trace ourselves to any African, but we do have proof of this European slave trade, which they've masked it as what do they call it? Sending kids to different city on a train. That's what they call the slave trade. We don't know if these were just kids they were sending. We know that they also called it indentured servitude, or and they later on called it adoption. No, bitch, you taking some kids we don't know. Did you get that joker a shot? What is going on here? Of course, they did turn Ellis Island into the staple place, and there's another island right next to Ellis Island, which is the hospital for Ellis Island. Well, wait. I got footage of it. I'm gonna bring that to the table as well too. We're gonna feast on these cats. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been hungry.
1,400 buildings and left 70,000 people across the Great Lakes region. The Great Chicago Fire destroyed 2,100 acres, leveled 17,400 buildings, and left 70,000 people homeless. That same night, 200 miles north, the Peshtigo Fire in Wisconsin consumed 1.2 million acres and took between 1,500 and 2,500 lives, making it the single most devastating wildfire in recorded American history. Simultaneously, fires destroyed Holland, Michigan, Manistee, Michigan, Port Huron, Michigan, 37 individual fire areas across 3 states, all on the same night. The official explanation is drought conditions and careless land clearing practices that happen to ignite at the same time across hundreds of miles. One night, the decade immediately following those fires, 1882 to 1892, was the peak decade of orphan train placement. The fires created massive displacement. Entire communities vanished. Local records burned. Population records, birth certificates, property deeds, church registries, all consumed. And into that void, children with no traceable origins flooded the system by the thousands. At the same time, something else was happening at World's Fairs and amusement parks that I still can't fully explain. Between 1896 and 1943, premature infants were displayed in glass incubators as public attractions. A man named Martin Cooney, who may not have been a real doctor, who changed his name at least once, who lied about his birthplace, operated what he called the Infantorium at Coney Island's Luna Park and at World's Fairs in Omaha, Buffalo, Chicago, and New York. Signs outside 5 cents to view rows of tiny infants behind glass. Cooney claimed to have treated over 6,500 premature babies. The names of the infants were kept anonymous. Hospitals at the time refused.
I hope this sounds familiar because this is that same J.E. Jeffrey Epstein play that's going on now. They are repeating history. Again, Bitcoin was created around, what was it, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. The whole plan of Bitcoin was coming into play. Really, it was coming into play 2002 when they started doing more of the trying to get PayPal into a digital currency way. PayPal was Bitcoin before Bitcoin. So with this whole Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Peter Thiel and Alex, these guys right here. Now, and some more names, but these guys right here were at the round table creating this digital lifestyle that was sure to come in time, starting like 1998 and on, actually. So this is what they were building, that digital background currency, that electric currency. Mind you, we are electric beings, electromagnetic beings. So they have to get our blood holds the plasma that runs through our body as well too. And plasma again is electromagnetic. So it's not just blood, it's plasma, electromagnetic material. So all of this is going to make sense eventually here. Trust me. So that's how they're able to create an AI. All of what we have running through our body is a necessity. I don't know if you guys know that, but to function how we function in a millisecond of a millisecond, to be able to have a reflex to a stimuli like that, yeah. And who do you think? Don't think. Never mind that. I'm not even going there. What we're talking about is all of these people coming from Europe under an indentured servitude contract, no background, and all of a sudden you're saying that your granddaddy was one of the forefathers. I'm gonna need you to stop telling 5 lies. You're talking about a forefather. Yeah. We just want to break into the system right now and unplug this historical lie we've been told. None of that shit is real. You were never a slave. Find out who the slave was, and it ain't gonna be you. And I'm talking to the Aboriginal people of America because all of this is happening on your land. And I ain't talking about no wannabe American. This is nothing against any other race, ethnic group, but we ain't talking social construct when we talking right now. We talking about the lies they told. And yes, we want our crown. So, oh yes, you gotta fight for it. So, motherfucker, the Dukes are up. So either you gonna join us or you gonna join us. Ain't no in between. We ain't stopping.
refused to treat premature babies at all, calling a park and at World's Fairs in Omaha, Buffalo, Chicago, and New York. Signs had living babies in incubators. Visitors paid 25 cents to view rows of tiny infants behind glass. Treated over 6,000 premature babies. The names of the infants were kept anonymous. Hospitals at the time refused to treat premature babies at all, calling them weaklings unfit to survive. Eugenics exhibits ran at the same fairs where Cooney displayed his incubators. Where did thousands of anonymous premature infants come from? Who were their parents? Why was there such an endless supply of them across decades of exhibitions? And why does nobody ask? I keep coming back to the children, not the theories, not the timelines, the children. Real human beings who rode those trains without knowing where they were going, who stood on platforms while strangers inspected their teeth, who had their names taken away and their histories sealed in archives that remain closed more than a century later. An estimated 2 to 3 million Americans alive today are direct descendants of orphan train riders, and most of them carry a gap in their family tree that can never be filled. Not because the information was lost accidentally, because it was never recorded, or because it was recorded and then sealed, or because the one census that would have captured it all was destroyed and never restored when restoration was still possible. I spent weeks looking for a single definitive document that explains where all these children came from. A government report, a comprehensive study, an internal audit from any of the 20 organizations that ran these trains. Something that says here is the accounting, here are the origins, here is the verified chain of custody for 250,000 human lives. It doesn't exist. The closest thing is a series of annual reports from the Children's Aid Society claiming general success without providing verifiable source data for the children's backgrounds. The organizations didn't communicate their statistics with each other. Many never published their numbers at all. And over the 90 years since the last train ran, records have been lost, destroyed, or sealed behind institutional walls that remain closed to this day.
So, they got facts on these people coming over here as indentured servants, but they don't got no facts on the train rides all of a sudden. Yeah. We even lost those train ride names that list the names, or we got them sealed up somewhere, and you'll never be able. Man, Sancho, this is a narrative. They're covering up a narrative right now. So the narrative is these kids came over here because they were poor Europeans. Now, mind you, know that Jeffrey Epstein shit was going on. So where are these parents? Are the parents of age to be parents? Were these places that they call ghetto, which we know that it was for them in New York? Were those breeding farms? I'm inquisitive because I'm starting to think, were those tenement buildings created to be breeding farms to increase their race in America, being born here in America? So you got all these newborn babies born on American soil, automatically naturalized. Look. These people were not running shit in the 1800s if you got to go through all of this. And again, they did not start making laws until 1912, 1913, leading on up to the Racial Integrity Act, which that was only spun because of the Federal Reserve and what Woodrow Wilson and the presidents did. Not the, you know what? I'm not going to go into before Woodrow Wilson, because right now we're going to stick to just Woodrow Wilson, because all that shit before him could also be a narrative. And I'll explain why later on. But right now, I'm stirring this motherfucking coffee. These motherfuckers right here have been playing a big game of pull the wool over your motherfucking eyes, nigga. Well, I can see with my eyes closed, goddammit. I got a photographic memory, bitch. Hey, but JE, not unless you got $100 million, I'll shut the fuck up.
Maybe it was just poverty. Maybe the immigration waves really did society, claiming general success without providing verifiable source data for the children's backgrounds. The organizations didn't communicate their statistics with each other. In Ran, records have been lost, destroyed, or sealed behind institutional walls that remain closed to this day. Maybe it was just poverty. Maybe the immigration waves really did produce 250,000 parentless children over 75 years. Maybe the record gaps are nothing more than 19th century bureaucratic sloppiness. Maybe the simultaneous fires, the destroyed census, the sealed archives, the parallel programs in Britain, the incubator babies at World's Fairs, maybe all of it is just coincidence, layered on coincidence, layered on coincidence. But I've been researching this long enough to know what coincidence looks like, and I know what pattern looks like. 250 destroyed at every turn. A census that captured their existence wiped from the historical record. A timeline that aligns precisely with the disappearance of entire civilizations from maps, and the systematic that descendants with DNA testing still can't trace their lineages past the train platform. Not coincidence, pattern. And when you see the pattern, the question isn't whether something happened. The question is what? What generated 250,000 children with no parents in the most documented era of American history? What required their redistribution across an entire continent? What is still being protected by sealed archives? And under 70 years after the first train left the station, the records won't tell you. The institutions won't tell you. The history books barely mention it happened at all. But the descendants are still here. 2 to 3 million of them, carrying questions in their bloodlines that nobody in authority has ever been willing to answer. The children remember, even if history pretends they were never here at all.